What's up, folks? You are tuned into the Failing Frequency. I am Ethan.
And I'm Mike.
Thank you, over there. And we like talking about Star Trek.
We do indeed. And what track are we talking about this week?
Oh, we got a little bit of news. It's all nerdy news. It's comic books. It's video games. It's books. And then we're talking about the latest episode of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. Ad Astra.
Per Aspera, I think it is.
Per Aspera, nailed it.
Yeah.
But before we get into any of that, how you doing, Mike?
I'm good. This is the earliest we've ever recorded, really. So I'm just on a lunch break here.
Yeah, that's why I've got this. Oh, I've still got my spectacles on. That's why I've got this lovely natural light.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're beautiful.
We're all so, wide and awake compared to as we are later on. I haven't even got booze with me today at all. So
nah, yeah, man. My Elvance is like peaking right now. So yeah, I am literally like, it's warm, yes, but I'm sweating because of the speed.
Yeah, I'm just melting away, melting away. Yeah, how are you though? Other than melting.
All right, yeah. All right. Yeah, man. Nothing. Can't complain. I will say I've started selling comics on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
I got an AI to do market research to pick a good name for my comic shop.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy some okay-ish condition graphic novels on eBay, come find me. Look for secondhand superheroes.
Secondhand superheroes. Thank you,
AI. The AI was like, alliteration is very popular in comics. And I was like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's good call.
I was saying to you last week,
GPT.
you should have put like a monkey in it. Because monkeys are popular in comics as well.
Monkeys are popular. And I got another delivery from my parents' garage yesterday. So I'm going to be listing some of those. And honestly, sometimes it is sad to see them go. I'm just looking at them, and I'm like, sometimes it's like, yep, so sad. I'm like, I'm keeping this one.
Yeah,
this one is special.
Special ones keep. The rest can go.
Yeah, and then like just a bunch of Hunter S. Thompson books, and yeah, man, I was so edgy in my youth.
Just in your youth, you're a changed man now.
I'm changed as fuck. Like, yeah. Oh God, honestly, I was such a knob. 1984, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, A Clockwork Orange, A Farewell to Arms.
Yes.
Insufferable. Insufferable.
Yeah. 1984 is still a good book. It's not.
I know, but I didn't get it.
Not whatever.
I didn't get it when I read it.
Yeah.
That rhymed.
It's like first time I read Animal Farm, I was just like, oh, cool, animals,
Yeah, man, they're all killing each other. Sweet.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway, let's move on and talk about the news anyway. We're in a mana rush.
Yeah, man. So first piece of news, something you mentioned quite a while ago, is that the general view that people have of Picard and Kirk is flipped.
Yeah.
Like, everyone thinks Kirk's this cool guy and that Picard's this massive nerd. But when they were at the academy, Kirk was a massive nerd and Picard was a cool, edgy roustabout.
Banging broads.
Bar fights and banging broads.
Yeah.
And now we're going to get to see Picard bang some broads in the new comic series from IDW, Star Trek Picard's Academy.
Picard's Academy. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's looking cool. It's weird on that front cover that you can see. It kind of looks like he's turned his head full 180 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah, the front cover's the only bit I saw and I didn't read on really because I don't think it's going to be not screaming out at me as a comic I want to read other than seeing, his connection to Jack Crusher, who must be still alive.
Yeah,
and,
I'm thinking that's who we see here in this picture. He kind of has a look of Wesley Crusher, but with some meat on his bones.
And And who's the friend almost fucked in Tapestry?
That one.
Yeah.
So it's being written by Sam Maggs, with art Ornello Greco.
Ornello Greco.
Yes.
Greco.
We're in the middle of the Star Trek Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
And as a lifelong fan, I'm both honored and overjoyed to be able to contribute to a universe that has meant so much to me for so long. The Next Generation was my first introduction to Star Trek, and I've always wanted to know more about how the Jean-Luc we all know and respect came to be. Same.
Yeah.
Same. I want to know what his thoughts on cheap shit French lager are.
Yeah.
Well,
considering he's the only one who likes Chateau Picard by the sound of it, then
he probably thinks it's great.
Yeah.
It comes in these delightful tiny bottles.
But yeah, that's our one for the day. What's our next news item? Because I've got nothing to say on that fucking comic.
Speaking of Star Trek Renaissance, we've got loads of video games out at the minute. You played Star Trek Resurgence.
I did indeed. Platinumed. Nice game. Wasn't playing.
What was that word? Platinumed.
Platinumed. I got all the trophies. I completed the game 100%.
Worth the wait?
It's not a game for me. I'm not a Telltale gamer, I don't think.
No.
It's a lot of just leaning back, moving the control stick one way or the other, sort of thing.
Did the choices affect the story in any way?
There's 12 minor changes in the story that you can go through, and that's it. And some of them aren't even big changes, really. It's just depending on something's going to happen now or something's going to happen in an hour's time. So there were minor changes, but it's all very Rails. The story has a end point that it's going to get to whatever you pick, really.
Yeah. Whatever. Well, hopefully Star Trek Infinite will be slightly more stimulating. It was teased last week. It looks to be like a strategy game, managing resources. You get to play as either the Federation, the Romulans, the Klingons, or the Cardassians. If you're a fan of Red Alert or Dune 2 or that other Star Trek strategy game that's on mobile, then you might love this shit. Which faction would you play as, Mike?
Well, before that, if you're fans of other games, I was hoping it was going to be more Armada from I suppose 15 odd years ago now. But it's pretty much just a reskinned Stellaris. So it's the same publisher doing it.
I know that one.
Yeah. And it had a Star Trek mod in the past, New Horizons. So they've gone, this mod seems to get a lot of interest. Why don't we just do this? So they're just doing that.
But we're already doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's do it more like this.
And let's make it more confined. Let's make it so you can't just have every ship in the Federation.
No.
You have to have these 10 ships or whatever.
Yeah, man, because, the most popular long-running game in the Star Trek sort of franchise, Star Trek Online, one of the things that people love about that the most is the really intense customization that goes into it. You can be anything, you can be anyone, you can be yourself, but blue. Let's strip all of that away.
Yeah.
Let's take all of that down. Let's really limit the amount of choices that people can make in the game. Great.
And it's a slightly confused time period as well, I think, because on the faction choice piece that, there's a screenshot that I'll throw up here as well. It shows Spock, or you can be Picard, or you can be a couple of Romulans that we've seen in episodes, or Sela. And then the Klingon one, it's the Chancellor before Gowron. Kimbek, is it? Yeah.
Kimpek. Yeah.
Kimpek. And right behind him is the clone of Kalis, who I'm pretty sure only got found after Gowron was Chancellor.
Yeah.
And we've got Intrepid classes. Yeah. And we've got Intrepid class ships just around as well, which, should probably come about 4 or 5 years, or 3-4 years after Gowron becomes Chancellor. So it's slightly confused time period, but I don't care that much, really.
That's whatever.
Yeah.
What faction would you go with? What would be your gameplay style? Would you want to set up a socialist utopia with the Federation, or do you want to do you want to choose one of the other 3 factions and start wars?
I do like playing as the Feds. I just prefer the aesthetic of Federation ships. If not them, probably the Klingons. Or I'll play specifically as Dukat and make statues of me on every planet. So it's just the ROMs. I don't particularly go for cloaking. Who cares about cloaking?
Might not be Dukat. It might be the other gold Dukat, the one with the goatee.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe.
I would. This might sound stupid, but I would want to play as the Borg.
Yeah.
The fact that there's no option to play as the Borg is kind of lame.
We've kind of got hinted that, the trailer, the non-gameplay trailer, the cinematic or whatever, hints that the Borg are going to be like this, force that just comes in and out or whatever, decides to fuck up an area. Which, from what I've seen of the New Horizons mod, they do scale the Borg to be a proper threat. It's not like other games where a Borg ship comes in and you just send a Sovereign against it and it's a fair match. It's just okay, you need to send 400 ships against it and it fucks you up still. So it'd be interesting if they've still got that sort of mechanic on there.
Yeah. Or the Maquis, that'd be fun. Especially if it was an online game, then you could go and fuck with other players.
Yeah. Just mess in the border.
Yeah, man.
Between every border colony.
Yeah, mate. Let's do a raid.
Raiders.
Space Viking.
Yeah.
But yeah, that looks meh.
Yeah, as I say, I would have preferred a Armada 3 in the same sort of style, but never mind. It's something. It's better than nothing. We're getting all different games for all different people at the moment, aren't we? So, yep.
Yeah, some people love strategy games. It's it's lots of tiny dopamine hits.
Yeah.
Bling, bling. You got new resources. Well done for managing those resources.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever.
Whatever.
But in exciting news, we've known for a while that they've been going into production on the Star Trek Deep Space Nine, A Stitch in Time audiobook, featuring Andrew Robinson in the role of Garak. And it looks like it's done and ready to be shipped out. Get your tape players. Get your tape players and your weird little yellow TOS mini disc players at the ready. I'm so excited. This is exciting news for Star Trek fans. If you're like me and you have ADHD and you struggle to read a book that doesn't have pictures, then this is great, and it is voiced by Andrew Robinson.
Yeah.
Oh, so excited.
Fantastic. And what is it? It's out August 1st, so in about a week's time. Pre-orders open now. Have you ever pre-ordered an audiobook?
I have not. I actually have pre-ordered one audiobook, and then because then it's done, and then one day there's just an audiobook downloaded onto your phone, and it's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad that like the announcement comes so like, and the actual release date is really close together, because like I've got some audiobooks on my wish list that aren't out till like next year, and it's like, why are you even telling me this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, mostly Andrew Reynolds stuff. I'm so looking forward to this. Honestly, the problem with a lot of audiobooks sometimes is the narrator. But Andrew Robinson narrating with a little bit of Bashir, with a little bit of Sid,
excellent.
not Sid Haig.
I don't know what version of his name he's using at the moment, which is terrible to say.
Alexander Siddig.
Is he still using Alexander Siddig though? He's not using Siddig because he changed it back, didn't he? Maybe he's changed it back again.
Siddig El Fadil.
Yeah.
No, he's going by Alexander Siddig.
Okay, cool.
Or Alex, I bet, to his friends, or Sid, maybe.
Sid.
That's cool. But yeah, it's I'm so excited. It's the story is like, you know, how it's Garrick reflecting on how he got here being
as a simple tailor,
whatever, you know, as a simple tailor, going to spy school and learning how to hem someone's inseam.
That's what the Bashir part is, just him hemming an inseam. What side do you dress on, sir? It should be good. Very, very looking forward to it. So by the time this next episode's out, we'll pretty much have it downloaded, probably.
Fucking
crazy.
Sweet. Oh, honestly, so excited.
Yeah.
Jem, my partner does have a copy of the book somewhere. No, they don't. Someone got them a gift. No, they don't have a copy of the book. They have a copy of a different book. And I listened to the audiobook of the the Una McCormick new book Trek canon version of this book, and it was like, meh.
Was it? That's a shame.
Yeah, I feel like Andrew Robinson's. You know, I don't want to set myself up to be let down, but I just feel like A Stitch in Time will have more sexual innuendo. Yeah.
It's one I haven't read yet either. You know, because if you try and buy paper copy online, it's few and far between. So I've just been diving. You know, anytime I go into a bookstore that carries Trek or old Trek books, you know, secondhand, I'm like, no. But yeah, looking forward to
it. But yeah, that's it for like big news. Fucking Patrick Stewart saying he can envision another Picard film.
No, you can't, you old man.
Like, it's
retire.
Please don't. No
Live
more
with your young
weird
wife and just smoke the rest of your days away. That's all you want to do anyway.
No more weird boomer, vaguely right-wing Star Trek for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Vaguely right-wing, heavily alt-right bullshit.
Yeah. He just wants more awards. And, you know, fair enough to him. He's been an actor long enough. But if the story doesn't need it, and it doesn't need it now, you know, we've done 2 or 3 runs at an ending for Picard. We don't need him to come back to have another half run at an ending. And we don't need particularly, that's why I'm not particularly interested in this comic coming up either. I'm mostly done with Picard now. I'm mostly done with that sort of era. And I'd like to move forward with a story, or, you know, fill in some gaps. So fill in some Enterprise C sort of time, rather than just dicking around with Picard.
Yeah, some Monster Maroon era stuff, or you know, Star Trek Legacy.
Yeah.
even though I'm actually not that excited about Star Trek Legacy.
Me neither. It's a terrible Enterprise.
No, I don't mind it's the fact that it is the Enterprise and the fact that it's Jack Crusher, and like I'm cool with 7 of 9 being captain of a ship and having a show about Captain 7. Sweet. Fucking all the rest of it can get in the sea.
Yeah. Anyway, we're here to talk about an episode, aren't we?
Yeah, man, let's move forward.
Let's move forward by going backwards.
By going back and then moving forward from the back.
With an episode title that goes even further back. That is,
yes,
as you said, ad Aspera per Aspera, I think it is.
Yes.
Someone can correct my Latin. I don't give a fuck. How about picking on me with words I pronounce that are spoken languages rather than all ones I get wrong on non-spoken languages?
As if you don't even know Latin. Like, all right, John Cleese's character of the Roman soldier in Life of Brian.
Yeah.
That's you told.
Anyway, what did you think of the episode? Non-spoilers.
Well, I will say, if you
oh yeah, do the
if you liked some of Star Trek's great courtroom tribunal episodes, like Measure of a Man, Distant Origin, what's another one? The First Duty, Tribunal, and hold on, where's the DS9 one? The Drumhead. That's not the DS9 one, but the DS9 one.
The Worf one.
The Worf one, which I thoroughly enjoy.
Add in there as well, Dr. Bashir, I presume. The one.
Dr. Bashir, I presume.
Yeah. Not a courtroom, but it's similar.
Very similar. NCIS.
Yeah.
Whenever they've done a courtroom one, because they're Navy. If you like less Pike but more Pike face, great.
This sort of shit all the time. Yeah. They're paying him by the word this season, aren't they?
There must be.
Yeah. They worked out that Marvel paid him by the word for Black Bolt, so they're just paying him by the word for Strange New Worlds.
If you liked Bilquis from American Gods, then you are gonna fucking love this episode.
I can't remember.
That's who
the first season
Una's friend played.
Yeah.
Bilquis, the Queen of Sheba. The one with the vagina, the portal to the vagina nebula up inside her.
See,
you know, she's like riding that dude, and then she sucks him up inside her.
Okay, yeah. I watched American Gods season 1 and thought it was great, and then there seemed to be like 2 or 3 years before season 2, and I was just like, man, I'm off this train.
Yeah,
I'm done. You know,
that's fair.
I'm never going back.
That's fair.
Yeah. But what did you think of it anyway?
Yeah, it was all right. It was a bit kind of like, you know, last week's episode was very meh. This was less meh.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of metaphor and allegory that was somewhat on the nose, but I don't mind that. You know, subtext is for cowards and all that.
Yeah.
I do love a good courtroom drama. I love it when people discuss and weigh up the good and bad of subjective morality. Yeah, I didn't mind this episode. It was very low stakes.
It's reasonably high stakes for our characters, surely. For two of our characters.
Well, I mean, if you have watched the trailer for this season, then the ending is sort of spoiled for you a bit.
Yeah, that's the stupid thing about this fucking trailer that came out, and we can kind of realize now why they had so much Una in the trailer and so little Pike, because they are paying him by the word. Feels like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought much better than last week. Still, you know, maybe not as high as the highs of last season or the average of last season. I think they did a reasonably good job tight-roping between the canon, because, you know, there's this canon argument that's coming up, or it would be up if they just resolved things very, very happily at the end of the episode, and they don't necessarily do that. But I think the arguments in the case were a bit stupid, and not stupid as in I don't believe in them, but stupid as in sometimes they go back on each other, and, you know, all that sort of stuff.
Sometimes the argument, sometimes it's like, I'm gonna need you to show you're working there. Like, I'm not 100% clear on how you went from A to B to C there with that logic.
And if Legal Eagle was doing this, you know, it'd be, although he takes a view that is, how does this compare to current US legal systems and stuff like that? He'd be like, what evidence? Don't approach the bench without being, you know, asking to approach the bench, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, but when you look so good walking around in high heels as that actor does, like, I'd let her approach the bench. Fuck.
Yeah. Anyway, should I do the episode recap? And I've kept this one very short, or pretty short.
Nice.
It's a courtroom episode on the prosecution. No, I haven't kept it that short. On the prosecution, it's Starfleet, represented by Captain Patel. On the other side, it's Una, represented by fellow Illyrian and childhood friend Neera, I think. At stake is Una's place in Starfleet, the standing of all Illyrians in the Federation, and Pike's command of the Enterprise. The arguments for the prosecution focus on how it is the law, and the law is there to prevent another eugenics war, but the winning argument for the defense that gets Una freed is the letter of the law regarding asylum cases and Una fulfilling every requirement there. So while Una might be free to continue work on the Enterprise within Starfleet, her case doesn't fundamentally change Starfleet's attitude towards augments as a group, only to consider them more on an individual basis.
Yeah, that's fine. They forget that.
Yeah, they
forget that over time, slowly, don't they?
Yeah, where's this being used in case law thereon?
Do you think it would be appropriate in a modern military tribunal for someone to cite the Napoleonic Wars?
Probably not.
Right.
Probably
so
not.
why are people talking about the eugenics wars in Star Trek? Like,
yeah. I suppose they're using the eugenics laws, and, you know, it's even referenced by the defense as this thing happened way in your past, and you're just using it now as a crutch to persecute a particular type of person. So you become persecutors rather than, you know, in your defense of, you know, trying to defend the natural order and all that shit, acting like God and all that. You know, you're just using this old example to pull through, when it's kind of bullshit, really.
Yeah. You know, it's very much bullshit. Draconian race laws, they're described as, which, I agree, you know. And
especially when, you know, you can understand humans being like, oh no, it breeds real shit in humans, you know, superior intellect, superior ambition, want to conquer the world and stuff like that. But the universe isn't Earth, and there's species like the Illyrians who have been getting by very happily for hundreds of years before the Federation was up there, just augmenting themselves anyway. And you're coming in and being like, well, you can have all this aid, you can have this food and medical supplies, but you need to abandon your fucking culture.
Yeah, the genetic modifications that they do, they're described in the show as a cultural practice.
Yeah.
You know? people in the military, like, you know, if a Sikh joins the military, they don't have to cut their hair. If a Muslim woman joins the military, she doesn't have to take off her hijab.
Yeah.
You know, like it, and Starfleet is a military organization, as we
say this though, of the, you know, why don't they have cultural stuff? If Riker was around and he saw this, he'd be kicking off, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Ensign Rowe, take that off.
I think we've already discussed that. Like, he doesn't really care. He was just nitpicking because he didn't like her.
Yeah.
Bully.
Bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you buy into the why it's okay for Una rather than Bashir? Because they do have fairly different cases.
They do have fairly different cases. One could describe that, like, Una's situation is a cultural practice.
Mm-hmm.
And
was done before she was born.
Was done, and then later done when she was a child, when, you know, she didn't, you know, when her parents were her, you know, custodians. Is that the right term?
Was it done again? I thought it was just
then, like, when she was a kid, they had to take her to a special, like, augment doctor to, like, do stuff.
I think that was just to fix her up, or my reading of it was just to fix her up. They couldn't take her to a normal doctor because her leg was glowing.
No. Well, like, that's the thing, you know, it's a cultural practice. It's like, you know, it's in her DNA. Whereas, you know, Bashir's was in many ways a form of child abuse, but also, like, it did give him an unfair advantage over. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it gave him an unfair advantage over his fellow officers. I would say it probably gave him an unfair advantage in the academy. Yeah. Whereas, like, you know, once you're in Starfleet, like, that's not an unfair advantage. That's a useful, you know, resource.
I think that the difference between them is that the cultural practice aspect of it, and then there's the asylum side of it, where Una was, you know, in part getting asylum, or getting help from the Federation, her planet, being a member state, and getting medical supplies and getting that sort of assistance, where Bashir wasn't, and then outed herself and claimed, like, asked for asylum pretty much. Whereas Bashir wasn't going to die without an augment. He wouldn't have been able to tell a cat from a dog, probably, but he wasn't going to die. And, you know, didn't need the refuge of Starfleet, you know, wasn't in fear of his life, and didn't come forward himself. It was Robert Picardo playing whatever Zimmerman that outed him. So those are the kind of differences of the case, I think. And it's still kind of bullshit for Bashir, where it's just like, no, children who, you know, if you're a 12-year-old or whatever he was, and you can't tell a cat from a dog, then Starfleet's going to be like, sorry, you know, we could feed you into the medical machine here that could help you, rather than you going to a back alley doctor that might fuck you up. But bit weird.
It's you know, them saying they want to, we'll address this issue with a case by case basis. Is a neat way of resolving canon.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's just like we haven't established that or whatever. And I thought they were just going to go, all Illyrians are fine. It's your cultural practice. Whereas humans, it's a no-no.
No. It's daft.
It is a bit.
But, you know, it was, you know, like I say, it was used to a pretty good effect as a metaphor for some issues that we have in our real world today. you know, about the persecution of people based on their race, their sexuality, their gender. You know, there was a lot of good sort of metaphor relating to Jim Crow, to the Holocaust. You know, talking about, you know, that it was all right for people who could pass. You know, talking, you know, mentioning setting up an Illyrian ghetto.
That's kind of why I'm glad they didn't go down the, you know, because they could have gone down the don't ask, don't tell route of the military. And then because they'd laboured the point so hard of, you know, some pass and some don't, then it's probably not a great idea to use that as your resolution to a story. As a don't ask, don't tell. But, you know, if you're obviously augmented, then you're out anyway. So sidestep that, I reckon.
It did, like, at one point I was thinking, like, you know, if you can't see it, that, you know, they mentioned, you know, Neela, the lawyer played by Yetide Badaki. She's awesome. She's fine as hell. There was a point where she was like, it's all right if your modifications can't be seen. I was just like, is she straight up talking about her being black? Like, in the narrative of the show? Like, what the fuck? So, like, sometimes the metaphor was a little bit clumsy.
See,
a little bit on the nose.
I didn't think of it. My mind didn't go to black or, you know, your race in that way. It went to trans more than anything else.
Yeah. I was hoping that we would get, like, a reveal of, like, a cybernetic arm.
Not with Strange New Worlds' budget.
No, not with that. And, like, you know, we've already had cyborgs and stuff, but, like, I was like, what are we gonna see? What are you gonna show us? But we didn't.
Because we don't really get what her augments are, and you know, I suppose the point of the story is it really doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. It's the concept in and of itself. But, I mean, she was wearing that dress at the start that had the zip that went from there all the way down.
Yeah.
And I was... we got
that dress lost that bit, which was a shame, you know?
Yeah, I know, like, she could have been like, unless you can see it, and she's like, she's glowing all underneath. She's just a being of light. Yeah, but also the, you know, you mentioned before, like, you know, they're talking about, or, you know, augments and genetic people of genetic modifications. You know, there's the risk of them taking over the world. That, you know, that's very much the far right position on trans folks now. Like, you know, the woke is taking over.
Yeah.
The woke is taking over. We need to nip it in the bud. You know, we have rules in place for a reason, and it is total bullshit. You know.
And there's that conversation with Lon and the lawyer, and it's just like, yeah, you could take over the world. Anyone could take over the world, sort of thing. You know, everyone's got capacity for action. You know. It's kind of what you do with it or whatever.
Yeah.
There's
also that scene with Lan talking about her you know, inherited augments. Like, you know, we talked about it last week.
Which you were right last week, and I was right. I was apparently wrong.
She has inherited augmentation. She's a descendant of Khan Noonien Singh. She's got the juice.
Yeah.
You know, and she, you know, obviously that actor is also of you know, she's mixed race. You know, the allegory, you know, lines up perfectly. She's talking about, you know, she has things in her, and she doesn't, you know, she might not necessarily know what it means, and I'm sure a lot of mixed race people probably feel that way. You know, what does it mean to be born partially of a certain culture, and what do I take from it? You know, I'm half American.
I was going to say,
it's not
other than half American, it's like the two whitest guys in the world on a podcast.
It's the two whitest guys. We're so white, but like, you know, I'm half American. I would say I probably have the most direct metaphor relating to the fucking augments. Americans are fucking... The American establishment is a fucking tyrannical regime. You know how? You know, my family are from the American South. I know a lot about my family tree and a lot about my family history. How do I square that away? It's something that I've struggled with.
I wouldn't use the phrase, if I were you, that you know most. You know, well, no. You're still the right color for the American South.
I'm still the right color for the American South, but like I'm not the right mindset to be okay with it at all. You know, I've got, you know.
But then there's that conversation of passing again, where, you know, we are both of a socially left mindset,
and British.
But because we are white, we can pass in circles with people who
absolutely
are bastards.
Yeah. But I definitely know how it feels to look back at your family tree and feel a lot of shame, and to muse on that and to think like, but what if that was me? Would I, you know, if that was me, then would I have been like that? Would I have been that awful?
Yeah.
Would everything, you know, would I have lived a lifestyle that would be seen as completely reprehensible today? It's, you know, you know, I get it.
Most people like to think they wouldn't, but most people would be living a life that's reprehensible, you know?
Yeah.
Social attitudes change, and in how many years people will look back at, you know, what we do now and think that is reprehensible.
Yes.
It is just the way of it. And you can just live to your best self and try and, I suppose, do the equivalent of no harm.
Yeah, and know how to work the system.
Yeah,
you gotta know how to fucking work the system. It's like these are the laws. I'm just working within the framework that you set up.
Yeah.
You know,
they have this argument. Nira has this argument. Oh, I'm just working within your laws, and you've got to apply them, whatever. But her first argument is, and maybe it's the writers or whatever, or her character trying to set up that, no, if you're going to apply the law, then you have to apply it in the good side as well. Where it's, oh, just because it's law doesn't mean it's just. And you go like, oh, yeah, that's a solid argument. And then at the end, she's saying, oh, well, this is the law, and you know, you need to apply that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's kind of, I mean, okay. One of them's the spirit of the law, one of them's the actual action of the law, but it's like, I wasn't a fan of that, really.
Well, maybe that's her augment. Maybe that's her genetic modification. She can flip-flop.
Yeah. She's a fish.
The whole... that whole thing of like laws are ideals. Laws are, you know, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think laws, they're
written by man.
The laws are written by man. Ideally, laws should be in place to protect people. And if a law is harming anyone, that law needs to be, you know, addressed. And I think that's what her character, you know, her initial defense was a hard offense. Like, you know, I was down with that. Like, you know, how are we gonna defend this case by pointing out that the whole thing is rotten from the core?
Yeah,
the law is stupid and draconian. The people enforcing the law are fucking hypocrites. It's all bullshit. Like, you know, I'm down with that defense. You know, I used to watch WWF. Sometimes the best defense is to just come out swinging.
Yeah, and they definitely needed that. You know, not necessarily going hard on Robert April, but going hard on someone as being like, because we as an audience have seen Starfleet captains just break General Order 1 or Prime Directive, as you know, they call it both in this, consistently. And this is supposed to be the highest rule they have. And every like 5th episode, you're like, good work, Picard, for breaking that rule. And then in this, it's like, oh no, we've got a rule that's like 5,000 down in our list, and yeah, you don't break that rule.
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah, we did. I'm sure we had a list somewhere of some more general orders. I think it was like General Order 10, no double dipping.
Yeah. There's that general order where you can glass a planet as well, which always seems like weird, isn't it?
Great general order. You know, it's a good, you know, scorched earth thing. Yeah. Or glassed earth.
Glassed earth. Anyway, do we want to talk about a couple of the other crew's reaction? Because I didn't do it in the episode recap.
You mean by reaction, you mean like
the minor faces, things they do? Yeah.
The reaction faces that they pull.
Because we have Pike in this, who again is pretty much sitting out the conversation. He gets nearer to come, as in come to the court. But you know, Patel, his squeeze, his captain with benefits, tells him, you know, oh, you don't want to take the stand because they'll just ask you about when you knew, and that'll just get yourself court-martialed and it'll make things worse. Rather than being about Una and trying to get her, you know, off this, you know, off the stand or whatever. So we've got a reasonable excuse why Pike is just sitting there silently, consistently. A better excuse than last time.
Yeah, a Pike light episode for sure, but at least we got to look at him.
Yeah.
Fucking Patel, like, oh, you look terrible. No, he fucking doesn't.
I wish I could look. I wish I could look like Pike when I'm my age. I don't look that good now.
Like him, fucking, you look terrible. No, you look terrible. He looks like a fucking god.
I had to I did a double take because I wasn't sure it was the same Patel as last season, and I haven't checked the credits or whatever.
It's Patel.
Patel, is it not?
Yeah,
Patel?
I always thought it was Patel, and I was like, she doesn't look Indian.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
But like, I always thought, like, surely in the future there should be more people with like names that don't necessarily fit.
Yeah.
Like a white guy with an Indian name.
Yeah.
But we don't. We don't get that. We don't see that. But yeah, why not? Hell yeah. It's not about it's not about what's on the outside. It's about name and legacy.
Yeah. What colour your blood is, Spock.
What colour your blood is and legacy. That's what Star Trek's about. It's about legacy.
Legacy. Everyone's got a child. And we've got the Lorne bit as well, who she thinks that her personal logs were raided. And she's willing to break. She's willing to try and prove that the evidence brought against Una to find that she was an Elorian was fruit of the poison tree, so evidence that shouldn't have been procured that way, by procuring other evidence that she shouldn't be procuring that way.
But it
cancels out.
Yeah, it cancels.
Like
it all cancels it out. Yeah, double negative. It all cancels everything out.
Yeah. You can just imagine like the Vulcan on the prosecution side being like, but how did you get that evidence? I'll prove one way or another that you got it the wrong way. And it's just like turns into a several decade court case of one-upping themselves illegally.
Yeah, or just the Vulcan spending decades in front of a blackboard trying to work it out. But what did you think of that the scene? The one funny bit of the episode, which was the two Vulcans, the bald Vulcan and Spock, having a quiet conversation, and then Spock being like, "I'm sorry you had to see that, Albert."
Yeah, and
I love that.
It fits and works with Mbenga as well.
Yeah,
in that, you know, we know he's a Vulcan specialist or whatever, and he's just watching them being like, "Can you not see the body language?" They hate each other.
They hate each other. Yeah, I love that. That was fun. And I like what I liked about that character again was that, like, because his character, you know, felt to me like an allegory for you know, the far right sentiment that we have now, and the fact that he's a Vulcan. Just because Vulcans are logical beings doesn't necessarily mean that they are exempt from having hateful views.
Yeah.
You know, I think especially in the right-wing sphere that we have today, we have a lot of academic types that kind of champion a lot of hateful right-wing views.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked the fact that his character saying the thing that right wingers say today, you know, was a Vulcan. You know, I was gonna say he's Vulcan Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. And he might as well be pulling up the crime stats and being like, "I think you'll find that Alorians make up a lower percentage of the population, and look at all the crimes that they commit."
Yep, exactly. Shit like that.
That's why we police them harder.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Fuck that guy and fuck Jordan Peterson.
Well, yeah. That was it for my main notes on the episode. I've got like references and shit like that. Have you got any other main notes?
You know, just, you know, the at the start of the episode we have the plea deal being offered. Never take the plea.
Never take the plea.
This, like, they show it as being, you know, fairly cut and dry. You know, if you just plead guilty, you won't be in trouble. You'll be stricken off or whatever. Bullshit. Yeah. I don't believe that for a second. Never take the plea. I did think it was a bit.
It's weird to me that Starfleet has a plea system, like, because then it's punitive if you you know, try and defend your case. It's like, oh, we'll just add 20 years to whatever we were going to give you.
Yeah.
You know, we were fine only imprisoning you for 2 years and, you know, knocking you out of Starfleet, but now we're going to throw you in jail for 20 years.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Never take the plea. Never talk to any member of the establishment without a legal representative present. Just
find a good lawyer, because her lawyer originally is a real dum-dum, isn't he? He's like, I think you should take plea.
Yeah. Hold on, let me just get rid of some of the notes so I can go through. I just had a couple of jokes. The part where La'an goes to Uhura to try and get the logs to see if anyone intercepted her personal log, and Uhura's like, no. And La'an's like, oh, Nyota, please. I was like, Nyota? More like, no, Yota.
Wait.
Did you just mouth that the same time I said it?
No, it was on yay. Oh.
Right, guys? Because no.
Yeah.
Big fan of mini disc.
Yeah, I was going to do.
Big fan of mini disc.
All the references to the old, like, court martial TOS episode. So the bell, the hand on the light, the uniform with the fruit pastel medals.
Yes, I think they actually looked all right. I think they looked all right.
They look better than the fruit pastel version that's in TOS, don't they? Where it's just a couple of sweets gone. Yeah.
Yeah. I I to be honest, I didn't mind the dress uniforms at all.
I'm a big fan of having the rank.
Yeah.
Up on the shoulders. Outside of, I'd prefer that than pips, probably.
Yeah.
If I'm honest.
It's classy.
Yeah.
And they're not like straight, they're kind of flared.
Yeah.
You know? Nice.
Well, thank you. You can see them as well. Pips, I always think, like, if you were across, you know, the bridge is exploding and someone beams in and you're just like, what rank are you? It's smoky in here and there's bricks flying out of these consoles.
I'm the cook.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just a cook. Yeah.
Speaking of cook, you fucking cook. No. We got Pike, apron Daddy Pike.
Yeah.
Always love seeing Pike in an apron. Prepping unpeeled carrots. That's the beauty of having the replicator to make your ingredients, man. You don't have to worry about washing shit or peeling the carrots. You can just replicate a perfect unpeeled skin on carrot and just get straight to work.
Peel my carrots.
Good.
Yeah.
I have to peel carrots for cooking at home, and I'm like, I can just wash them.
Not even wash them. You know, if you're putting them in the
just lick them, just lick the pesticides off.
Well, you're cooking them. You're probably going to cook them. If you're going to eat them raw, then fine. But if you're cooking them, you know, shit cooks off.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm with you.
Find the revolution.
Yeah, mate. And my last note is about the Uniform Code of Justice. Look at the size of that fucking book.
Yeah.
And I was like, and at first I was like, Uniform Code of Justice, something. Those uniforms are a crime against the Uniform Code of Justice. But then I decided I quite like them.
This is what happens when
I didn't flesh
we don't
out
have
the
enough
joke.
time to flesh jokes out.
No, I chose not to flesh that joke out.
Okay, yeah.
I chose not to flesh that joke out because I decided I actually quite like the uniforms. So
it's funny as well. She is like I keep calling him Cogley, and I know his name's not Cogley. But the guy from Court Martial, the TOS episode, where it's like, oh no, I like books because that must be digitized. Not every ship is carrying a couple of copies of this fucking book around.
Yeah, maybe she insisted on getting they were like, can you get me the Uniform Code of Justice? And they bring her a mini disc.
Yeah, and she's like, hardback edition. I need a prop.
Hardback edition, yeah, man. I've got some prop work I need to do. It's much more dramatic. Have you seen the fucking size of that book?
Yeah. Yeah.
Eesh.
Fun. Other references I had, there was a Tellarite for the first time. I think we've seen a Disco Tellarite, but we haven't seen one in Strange New Worlds.
Skinny disc, skinny blooming Tellarite. Yeah, man.
We were on, it looked like the equivalent of a 10 forward. Pike meets Bertal.
I liked that equivalent of 10 forward because of the retro futurism of Strange New Worlds, and the color scheme that they go with. It kind of looks like a space diner.
Yeah,
and I like that.
Yeah, no, it's all good. And the set for the courtroom is the reused Discovery, whatever the station is, whatever Vance's station.
All right.
It's that set reused, so that's why there's a big hole in the middle of the floor. Which
I did
seems
notice
odd
that,
for a courtroom.
I was like, that reminds me of something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Did you see the mural in the background? I kept trying to look at it, and I've looked at some pictures. It's like,
I didn't.
There's a couple of murals in the background that are they kind of look like a Greek, a bunch of aliens in togas.
It was a bit like, you know, the murals that are in Palpatine's office that very clearly say that he's like a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
And it's just like, Palpatine?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
because it's just like Jedi getting slaughtered on this mural in the background. It's like that, really. But I didn't spot what was on them.
It was just kind of like generic. It just looked to me like just generic alien Greeks.
Okay. I spotted in the background of Pike's quarters, where everyone's just looking at the screen silently, pretty much. Behind Pike, there is, I'm 80% sure, a picture of the NX Enterprise. So I'm sure that if not this season, then next season, we're getting an NX Enterprise in Strange New Worlds. Or an NX class.
I've said before, there's absolutely no reason why we can't have, like, a character do a cameo. Like, people have extended lifespans. We had, we had friggin', there was an Admiral Archer name drop in Star Trek 09, the Kelvin movie, There's nothing to say we can't have a cheeky old man Admiral Archer doing like what is this Enterprise? Are you a Vulcan more?
He's just gone very southern.
Yeah,
he's took on all of Trip's traits.
Yeah.
See, that there is like, he's supposed to be dead by now, we know, because in one of the logs it says when he dies, and he dies like the day after the Enterprise launches. But they skirt canon close enough, or they go over canon with the Gorn and stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
So I doubt it's going to hold them back. And Bakula's, Bakula wants pay probably.
Yeah. Got a lot of April in this episode. It's probably the most Admiral April we've had.
And backstory for him, he's the one who sponsored Una. They did this, all that. So
he went down to like an he stopped an industrial revolution from getting flooded.
Yeah. I'm sure if you go back and search a couple of those planets, one of them is one we know about before, or has appeared in a book or something like that. But I just don't have the time.
An episode of Stargate SG-1. I don't know why, but like the settings for those adventures that gave, just something I was like, this just sounds like something that would be on Stargate SG-1, because they were so clearly outlined as having like a thing.
Yeah. They were the pre-industrial version of us.
Yeah.
They were like the Mongol humans. Whatever. Yeah. So yeah. That other than I'm 80% sure if we don't get an NX class this season, we're getting it next. They were my notes for the episode, really. But because it's a Strange New Worlds, and unlike last week, we actually had a message. What did you have as the messages for the episode?
Prejudice bad. Prejudice bad. Yatidi bada fine.
Yeah. I had laws should be considered to the individual rather than applied outright. And, we aren't our genetics.
Yeah.
Which we have on two fronts.
Absolutely. Yeah. Laws, laws should be considered based on the individual, but like, also like if a law is in place to protect people, but that law potentially does harm, then maybe the law itself needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. And by sooner, I mean now, and not 100 years from now on a space station in a different quadrant of the galaxy.
But by sooner, do you mean by Una?
Oh, nailed it. Fucking nailed it.
I can't wait to watch me work that out.
Nailed it.
I mean, when I watch it back in
the... Love that.
Yeah. Where can we go? Any higher can we go than that? We might not be able to.
I'd say we just end it there. Like, boom.
Perfect time then.
Fuck it. Yeah, man. Not much to say on this episode, so.
No. It's a fairly focused episode, I think so. Next week, maybe we'll get some Pike. Who knows?
Yeah, man. Maybe we'll go to a strange new world.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe. But until that, in fact, there is an episode title. I don't think we have a trailer, but is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which sounds like a time travel episode.
Tomorrow and
so
Tomorrow
maybe
and
it's
Tomorrow.
The Kirk one.
That sounds silly.
It does sound silly, but that Kirk one looks silly as well, where he's like getting stuck in a revolving door.
I'm from space. You're from Iowa.
Yeah. You dumb bastard.
I'm hoping it's the Lower Decks one because that's a silly title. So maybe it'll be a silly episode.
I think that's These Old Scientists, episode 7.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, sound. So maybe tomorrow.
Directed by Frakes as well. Frakes is going to get in and try and direct the Lower Decks one.
What are some of the other episode titles we've got?
Among the Lotus Eaters, Charades, Lost in Translation. So we'll get a bit Bill Murray there. Then there's These Old Scientists, Under the Cloak of War.
Cool.
So a Klingon or a Gorn one. Subspace Rhapsody. Please, not a musical episode. Please, not a musical episode.
Fuck yeah, musical episode.
Oh no. And Homogeny, which will be the Gorn. That's the finale. And the Gorn have the Gorn Homogeny, I think.
They have the Gorn Hegemony.
Hegemony. Maybe it's Hegemony then, and I can't read. Yeah, it's Hegemony.
Yeah.
There you go. You can even read through the screen and see where I'm wrong. Yeah. So there we are. That's the next couple of episodes.
Yeah, man.
But it looks like we'll be join us next week for Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. But join us next week.
Yes. Next week. Yeah, I ain't got anything else.
Yeah, just do the, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a comment.
Subscribe, support audiobooks. Don't be racist.
Please.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, if you could try not to. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Or any ist.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
No
ists.
isms. No isms.
No isms, no ists.
No.
But yeah, in that case,
live long and prosper, motherfuckers.
And peace and long life, double dumbasses.
Yeah.